can you talk a little bit about preseason practice and kind of how it's been going, big picture?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with preseason practice right now. We've had excellent leadership from the three seniors. Royer, O'Brien, and Yu clearly understand what the expectations are when you come from a junior to senior, and how important it is to not just lead by getting on the floor and doing the right things, but you have to be more verbal. You have to be verbal in the locker room, you have to be verbal before practice, you have to be verbal in the weight room, you have to be verbal during film sessions. So it's been very encouraging to see how natural it has been for them to move into that leadership role, as well as having the juniors step up. Chris Eversley's acting and playing like a seasoned veteran now, and Jamal Johnson during the green and gold game was excellent. His ball control, his decision making, and then Kyle Oddister moving him to the point guard spot while Malik Love has been hurt. He's been fantastic, and he had 4 assists and 0 turnovers. Now, we didn't pressure each other much. We're not a pressuring team, but at the same time, they still made good decisions there. So that's been the most pleasant part of it. The 2 big kids in the middle, Brian Bennett and Zach Gordon, are clearly, Brian will probably start this year. Zach will back him up at the 5, and then Joe Allwich, the other freshman redshirt, will back up Chris Eversley at the 4. So we have good depth with some youth in the middle, which gets exploited when there's full court pressure or there's short shot clock situations. They haven't been in a lot of those pressured situations, as you saw today's practice, right, where we create scenarios where, hey, the game gets going, and we got to learn how to play when we're ahead. We got to play when we're behind. We got to play when it's a zone, when it's a man, when there's a mismatch. So overall, I'd say that the preseason, in my mind, has been a solid A minus at the lowest, because of all the natural progressions we've taken. I feel much more like we really have a program established where the older guys are teaching the younger guys a lot of the basics of what we want to do.
Right. When we were talking earlier, I think maybe fans who are keeping track of recruiting early on might kind of forget about Zach Gordon because he was a late signing. Can you talk about both him and Brian Bennett and their development, and how important, as far as your guys' ability to win games both before and during conference, is going to be kind of hinge on their ability to mature quickly over the course of the year?
Well, the best thing about both of them is that they both have really true size. Brian is 6'9", 240, and Zach is 6'8", 220. And they're both pretty aggressive. They both got pretty good feet. They're both pretty long-armed. Zach Gordon is really physical and can jump well and will bang in there. And he'll go up there, battle Chris Eversley for a rebound. And Brian Bennett's big and thick. Brian's kind of a bigger version of Will Donahue with Will Taylor's scoring potential. He had 12 points in the green gold game, and they're critical, and the best part is they're going to get thoroughly tested during the first preseason, the first 10 games of the year, because of who we're playing, and that's going to be great for their development. I don't know how we're going to do this year in our preseason, because I think we have quite an aggressive schedule, but I think that's going to ultimately benefit us in a huge way as we hit February and we go through a month of conference play, and we're like, wow, okay, we can do this. And by the time it's February, I say you're not a freshman anymore. Right. You get 20, 25 games in your belt. It's time to act like a sophomore or junior.
Is this a team that you're really hoping to kind of, I guess, see that development over time? I mean, more than even other teams that are more senior laden, more that have more upperclassmen. Right. I mean, you guys have underclassmen that are playing big roles. Do you feel like teams like this are teams that you can actually see tangible kind of progress throughout the season, hopefully?
Yes, and twice as much so, because guards have a tendency to be more polished earlier on in their career. So point guard, Malik Love came in as a freshman, was a Big West freshman of the year, and he was big, strong, physically developed, and confident, and did fine. Right. With post players, Kyle Oddister, same situation. Reese Morgan, I think, will be the same thing this year. I mean, Reese will get in the game, and you look like a veteran out there. The big guys may need anywhere from 10 to 20 games to really catch up to the speed, the aggressiveness, and the officiating. And what does an official call a foul? And when do they call that foul? And why do they call that foul? And they need some time to learn that. So I think that Brian and Zach will be good complements to each other. And then we could always move Joe Allwich or Chris Eversley into the 5 spot as well, allowing them to post up and face up.
Sure. If you want to get a little quicker. Talk about Chris O'Brien. I know he's a guy that you're really happy to have back. He's You're talking about him playing, a lot of different positions, somebody who you can kind of plug in wherever you need to plug him in. Talk a little bit about Chris O'Brien, and you talked about kind of the leadership on the floor being a senior, but also what he brings just as far as being able to play the game on the floor too.
Well, Chris, I think people may have forgot he was here as a starter for us 2 years ago on a team that got second place in conference. And, he teamed up with Sean Lewis, and it really was one of the best things that ever happened to Sean, because Chris is a very cerebral player. He understands the game. His father's a high school coach. So as he had mentioned, that being injured last year, he was already a smart player, but being injured, he was able to watch the game even that much more. And as he said at today's meeting, he said that the game has slowed down so much for him that he's able to talk to guys and make plays and make decisions and play multiple positions and maybe play different styles, post up some, drive it, pass it, help break a press, take the ball out of bounds, play a backup point, play a two-guard. He's got a lot of tools in his, his Swiss Army knife is quite versatile, and we need that from him. And I think it's one of the huge things we missed last year. I think that once we lost Drake on top of it, to have another guy like Chris with his intelligence and the way and
versatility, right?
Versatility. But I haven't even mentioned is probably our best guy in our matchup zone defense. He understands the reads before they happen, and he communicates those points to others. So, I think Chris and Drake are just going to be super at that 3, and there's times that we can play them the 3 and 4 if we want to go small, or the 2 and 3 if we want to go big.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about your pre-conference schedule. I know we talked about it before, but kind of knowing what you know now and how you guys are going out to Texas first next week and coming back and having a couple of tough games, kind of right off the bat here too in California. Can you talk a little bit about your early season schedule?
Well, I know we have a really challenging schedule, but I also think we have one that's I don't think we fear anybody. I think that we look at, if we go to TCU and we play to our ability, and we defend like we have in the past, and we rebound like we have in the past, we should be in the game, and we should be, looking at an opportunity to have a victory. Now, obviously, it's difficult to do that on the road, and it's sometimes more difficult the first game of the year. They have good physical talent, obviously a Big 12 team with a brand new coach who's very experienced, been in the NCAA tournament and coaching for 25 years. Right. I've known Trent for a long time, and Trent Johnson, the head coach there. So that's just one of many games that we come back home with that Northern Colorado game and with Fresno State game. We need to be able to get some momentum at home and really try to hold our home court. Those are two big games in our mindset of learning how to win at home, because that's kind of what we got to do for the Big West Conference. And then the super challenging games when we go into St. Mary's, to a UCLA, to a Santa Clara, and the University of Washington. We'll have a couple home games in between that, but when you go on the road and you have that kind of preseason schedule, the thing that we're going to do is keep getting better. I mean, the biggest thing is we have to keep getting better. You can't let the score of the game or the size of the players or the size of the crowd, right, the arena, or the television cameras affect our ability to improve. And we're going to have plenty of opportunities to, as I say, apply pressure. I try to coach under a premise that we want practice to be harder than the game. So I sometimes put 6 guys on the floor. Sometimes we won't call fouls during practice. Sometimes I try to get into their head and create an environment where there's more pressure on them, and they have to learn how to play through that, and eventually become comfortable with it and embrace pressure. And embrace pressure as this is why I signed up for this. They want to be at UCLA and trying to upset a top-ranked recruiting class in the nation and see if we can't go to Pauley for a victory.
Games like that St. Mary's game, I mean, you guys have a home and home with them. Is that something you're trying to do more of with either mid or top level teams around the country, and how hard is that to do here?
Well, it's very hard, but it's not impossible, and we've got a good situation now where this year we'll have Fresno State come in. We went there last year. They're going to come to our place this year, and we'll go back there next year. It's what we call 2 for 1. So we still get paid some money for that, which is important. And we're doing the same thing the next year. This season we're going to Nevada. We'll be on the road in Nevada, and then Nevada will come in here the following season. So we're just looking at so many good teams that have been to the NCAA tournament. They're going to have NBA prospects on their roster. Last year you saw the St. Mary's on our home court. Delandova as a kid, it's ranked as the top 20 point guards in the nation. And a future NBA prospect. Whether he plays in the NBA or not, nobody. starting to get looked at by a lot of NBA scouts right now, and it's a guy that you have a chance. And what we're doing with our recruiting, so we've got to get our recruiting to that level where we're able to recruit NBA potential athletes, and that's really what my focus has been is saying, okay, each year we got to continue to become a quicker team, a more athletic team, a smarter team, or in-depth team.
Last thing, I heard a podcast somewhere this weekend that Brian Scalabrine was on. I know that's somebody that you coach and you talk about sometimes. He was talking about how it looks like this might be the end of it for him as far as teams wanting him and that kind of thing. Can you talk a little about Brian and his and his career? He's kind of a player that we like on our side, and kind of one of those glue guys who's been on a lot of really great teams in the NBA.
Well, Brian and I are still very close and talk on a regular basis, and he called me about 2 months ago when he was reviewing some decisions in life about whether to get into coaching or broadcasting,
right,
or still going overseas to play or holding on for an NBA window. He was going to try to come down to San Luis Obispo and visit and watch our guys work out, but he was offered a job with the Celtics, and now he is now the color commentator for the Celtics on the road. And still
that must have been why he was on Bill Simmons' podcast.
That's exactly why he was on Bill Simmons' podcast. And then he texted me about a week ago, said he wasn't going to be able to make it down because he's going to be doing that. They had just gotten back from an overseas trip. I think they were in Turkey. Okay, they were in Turkey. The Celtics played a preseason game in Turkey the weekend that he was going to try to come down here. And what he said was, "Hey, I'm going to really embrace this gig and check out." He actually had mentioned in his text following our conversation a couple days ago is that check out my podcast with Bill Simmons. So I haven't got a chance to listen to it, but I know he enjoys talking, and we have a great relationship because we can get on the phone and talk for a couple hours about basketball.
He seems like a guy who's really sharp and should be really good at that. How important is that to have like guys who are in the league or guys who are playing professionally? I know we've talked about Amari being in Dominican and playing, and some other guys who you've had in the past, even at Cal Poly, who've gone overseas and played professionally. How important is that to you as far as recruiting, but also for your program?
Well, there's an opportunity to learn. The thing that as a coach, if you think you know everything, then you're probably going to be unemployed pretty soon. And for me, it's chance to pick their brains on what they do offensively. I've got players that have been in China. I got a kid that's sitting down in the CBA. With Amari, he's playing internationally. Will Taylor's over in Germany.
Is he over in Germany now?
Yep, Will's playing over in Germany. He had a double-double about a week ago.
When I talked to Will, he had just done the Aussie Rules football tryout, and I called him
a week later. A week later, he signed a contract. He's in Burton, B-R-T-E-N, in Germany, outside of Cologne. And he sent me an email yesterday and updated me on what's going on. And then Amari Furman's looking at a CBA opportunity. So he's got a couple teams he's working out with, looking for that chance. But going back to Brian Scalabrine, when you have a chance to have a guy him who's been on the New Jersey Nets, the Boston Celtics, and Chicago Bulls, you're looking at somebody who's been around world-class training, world-class recovery, world-class weight training, world-class coaching, film room breakdown, and so you always talk to him about everything from injuries to shooting techniques to drills to a range of things that roles of assistant coach. Scouting, how long to talk to guys over scouting, balance it out. So I just always use every relationship, former players, former coaches. I've got assistant coaches of mine from 15 years ago, and former player of mine, Tyler Gevings, the head coach at Portland State, Division I coach in the Big Sky. So that'd be somebody I'll talk with on a weekly or monthly basis, and how you doing, what are you doing, what do you like about this or that, or what are you doing offensively or defensively, and so all those things are really critical for me, because I love talking the game, I love being around the game, I love it, but for me, I got to feel like I'm getting better, I'm getting new ideas. I'll get bored too quickly. I don't run the same offense every year. I don't run the same notion of defense. I don't run the exact same drills. I try to keep things fresh and interesting.
Great. Thanks a lot, Coach. Good luck at TCU.
Hey, well,
go for it.
I think one of the most important things you understand that it is Halloween out there, and the scariest thing for every coach is, of course, a coach that sees a referee. So for Halloween, I'm dressing up as a referee because I'm scared to death of those guys.
I was trying to let you off the hook there in case there's any refs out there. I'm sure they're not listening to my podcast or my
If they can't take a joke, then they just shouldn't be in the business.
Thanks a lot, Coach. I appreciate it.